Hello, hello, and welcome to another wonderful episode of Submitted for Your Approval, a weekly card review show for Collective, the community-created card game where you make the cards. I'm Stranger Side, your host. I'm joined today by Grief. Say hi, Grief.
Howdy, folks.
Empty Folder is not with us today. He did not give a reason. We hope he's okay. And joining us today in the way of a guest, we have SpikeBerd, Realm Admin of Lux.
Empty Folder went to go off and manage all of his shell companies off into Panama.
I see. Okay. So SpikeBerd, Realm Admin of Lux, and the guy who's bringing 3D art to Collective. So I just wanted to kick straight off with the accepted submissions, starting with the Crimson Caravan, which is a 6-drop strength action from Mortstall, Realm of the Dead Things, with create all 3 members of the Crimson Caravan. So it's 3 units in 1, folks. Brandok, the leader, is a 2/3 life bond agile frenzy 2 vampire with when this attacks, force a unit to attack. Zunder, the Demolisher, is a 3/1 life bond overrun vampire with entomb, deal 3 damage to both players. Kugel, the Sorcerer, is a 1/3 life bond ward vampire arcanist, extra stuff, with when another ally unit dies, deal 2 damage to a random enemy unit. I was just kind of talking to the panelists just before the show. I think it's interesting how we don't have a lot of class tribes. So we have Knight and Arcanist and a couple others smattered here and there, but it creates this weird sort of asymmetry. But let's talk about asymmetry. That was the word I was looking for. But besides that, let's actually look at the card here. What do you think of it, Grief?
I think it's totally fine and will probably be a good addition to vampires in general as a deck. There's also a very distinct play pattern that you could actually follow with this card. Like either attack with Zunder and Brandlock, or only use Brandlock, Zunder, Kugel. It's German words again, so yeah.
We probably have the best correction at pronunciation.
Yeah, Brandloch, Zunder, und Kugel. That's basically their names. You could use Brandloch to actually attack, keep Zunder back, and Kugel just as well, basically as a blocker, because none of the other 2 really needs to attack to enforce that threat. With the card that you actually force to attack, you can run it into Zunder, gaining you 6 life in the process and dealing 3 to your opponent, while also getting rid of an attacker.
Yeah.
And then mildly shooting 2 damage at something. So yeah, it's a pretty good all-in-one package. Not a bad card at all.
Yeah, I do like the board in a box idea here, and I love how there's both a good aggro plan and a good sort of more control-y plan with this, because you can use Brandlock to force an opponent to attack and then do the blocking thing with Zunder, like you mentioned. So you can actually use this to kind of bait out weaker units that you can just, block, whatever. Yeah, you also have this other pattern where you could just use this to get as much reach as humanly possible in a single swoop. And I think they're both valid and they're both interesting. And so it's a very, very versatile card for 6. I do like this more than the original Crimson Caravan design, although they fill totally different roles. And I'm happy that this is the one we ended up with. What do you think about this, Spike?
So I'm pretty happy for this card to getting in, just because vampires have new tools ever since a lot of their problematic cards got nerfed earlier this year, and this could probably help fill in a new role right here. Especially pairs really nice with if you somehow manage to keep at least a couple of the Crimson Caravan on, you can play something like Tro, follow up with Tro turn 8 or so like that, and yeah, I'm with you. I like this a lot more than the original design. I would like to mention that for people who are trying to make, cards like this, that I think this is about the limit of how much text you should have for each token. The original design for this one's a lot more straightforward, and you can easily tell, you can play Brandlock, make Zunder attack, get the Kugel proc. It's very simple, and rather not simple, but it's very apparent what you can do with it right away on the tin, among the other things that you can do with it, counting your board. But I like how it's just nice and packaged. So overall, pretty happy this card got in. And
Yeah, it's
useful tool.
Mark Rosewater, head designer, MTG, calls this lenticular design. When you could see one thing, when just the first thing you see when you look at it, then you could tilt it a little bit and kind of start to see maybe some other possibilities, like one of those lenticular images.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's really, really just a great way to do that. Okie dokie then. Number 2. Ohmch, the Blind Glutton, is a 12-drop strength 8/8 Titan from HPL. With Overrun and deal 5 damage to your opponent, this costs 1 less for each unit that died this turn. Because this is a SpikeBerd design and because SpikeBerd is on the show, I will let him go first and talk about what was going through his mind when he designed it.
Well, I mean, I like designing big units, and I suppose I'm not the only one that likes designing big units, but I suppose I wanted a big unit that could be, slotted in aggro decks and also a variety of other decks of just it's pretty simple in what it does, but I wanted to have it as standalone, a good card that you can already like probably run in a variety of decks, and then later on when we get hopefully more cultists that we can do more shenanigans with Titans and stuff like that. I was actually thinking about to get back around that, like we need more class tribes and stuff like that. Not a class tribe, but I was thinking I was talking with Popka, and they mentioned that this could be like a demon, and I think that adding the demon tribe could also add a couple of fun shenanigans that you could do with it too.
Yeah. I think it's interesting, especially with the stuff you did with like the Wanderstar Casino revival. It seems like you're now on kind of an HPL Titans revival, because a lot of the HPL Titans were way like ancient times, and so now because we're seeing like Simta and Ohmch, we might actually see a resurgence of interest in HPL, which I would totally love. So yeah, it's Spike being the reviver of dead realms. Or dying.
I just help take cues from other people.
Well, yeah, I'm 100% behind this. I've been thinking for a while now that HPL needed more Titans, and so I'm very glad to see this.
There's people who are already trying to revive it, stuff like that. Like if there's
Yeah.
anything you want, to think, it's like the fact that I think Asdros was like one who was trying to push for like more cultist support, and I like that idea. So with the Vox Vivis update and stuff like that.
And I was pushing for like more build around Titans, which
I just wanted to move away from Vox-centrics and just more broadly open up the realm to more mechanical identities, because
exactly,
because I know there was like other Titans back then, like Ophidia and stuff like that the old guard. Remember, I think, curse you, Grief, by the way, I hate you, Grief.
Why? Now explain. Why do you hate me?
because I keep hearing you use that term. Refer to the old players, and it's stuck in my head now. But yeah, like old folk remember like Ophidia, but I think that it's a lot of people coming in now and they see HPL, they look at the old cards, they're probably going to mostly think Vox Realm. This is the Vox Realm.
Yeah, but I would like to see some stuff at the top, and then the cultists that support specific Titans.
Yeah, that's something the next plan. My plan for designing for after Ohmch is doing maybe some cultists, good standalone cultists
that also prop up like Simta or whatever.
Yeah.
Grief, what do you think of this design?
I don't really have anything against it. It's actually a pretty competent design. Problem is, this suffers severely from us not having a second main phase.
Yeah.
The reason is because in most games where you have in-turn counting reductions, like how many units I've played, or how many units have died, or how many cards were played, and stuff like that, the units have died clause is a very inflexible one, because to actually set it up, you have to kill the cards in question before you actually enter combat phase. Because even regardless if you kill cards during combat, you cannot really cast cards. So since we don't have in-combat cast speed or the second main phase, most of the situations where you really want to drop a surprise Ohmch don't really exist. Sure, it plays very well into board wipe setups or sacrifice decks, but you cannot really capitalize to the extent where you really that you really want to. So the best fix would probably be giving him also the demon tribe, so he can play more interestingly into stuff like Sanguine Ritual and stuff like that.
Yeah.
I'll take it into consideration. This is why you need to reprint Veteran Smuggler, that old card. That way you can
It never
put it
got
into
in.
play. Yeah, pre-post it.
Well, you can maybe do similar stuff with Erratic Portal Beast, but you'd still have that still
Oh,
take
that's
some
silly.
finagling.
I didn't actually think of that.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Well, yeah, Erratic Portal Beast was actually based around Veteran Smuggler. Fun fact. It was like, how do you make Veteran Smuggler in Black Rift, and then the stuff that made it Black Rifty disappeared. Now the card doesn't even fit in the realm. Storage Haunt is a 2-drop spirit 0/3 undead specter from Mortstall, Realm of the Dead Things. Was summoned, banish a unit with mana cost 4 or less until this leaves play. So we have another Calm Refuge type effect, folks. This is exciting. Of course, it is restricted in the kind of things it can grab, but this can serve as a great early game control tool, or later on in the game if you got opponents that are stacking buffs on something, of course. But and I guess it is not restricted to enemies. You could also use this to strategically set something up for a later for like a survival board wipe or something like that. Grief, what do you think of this?
Cute. It's just a potent card, all honesty. Yeah, people will try to make it to silence it probably, because that's the old interaction when it comes to like Calm Refuge interactions, where you play the card, remove the targeted question, silence Calm Refuge. Now it's permanently gone. Overall, it's a solid design.
Good, simple, common, in my opinion.
Yeah.
I don't care so much about word count. I think this is good. Spike, what do you think of this?
I mean, I think that this is something that we've been needing for a long time, and I don't know. I mean, I actually do know why we don't have many bind effects, is because Dev said a long time ago that they're going to come up with bind soon. Maybe next week. Maybe when Sentinels comes out. But I mean,
Don't get Grief started.
But I think that this type of effect is just something we need. It's just really nice to hit on those like really powerful small units right there. Like back in the day, if this type of card existed, I feel like something like Sycomancer wouldn't have been so hated, because just put it in the storage hunt, and sure, the restrictions pretty low, but I think for the mana cost that it's pretty appropriate, and this is gonna hit a lot of things, and it's gonna see a lot of play in a lot of spirit decks, in my opinion.
Yeah, and I feel like this also appeals to its critics in that like 4 is about that number where it doesn't hose mid range too bad, but it still can be versatile against a wide range of threats.
Yeah, that's 3 HP. You spend roughly 2 mana to get rid of it, so 2 for 2, or 2 mana for 2 mana.
Okay. Let's go on to the Orange Dream Pop. Is a 1-drop mind food from Carthian with feed exhausted unit. So we actually had a fun little start of a chat on the Discord about feed effects and making food work and making food not be or deal with some of the innate weirdness that's in the design. So naturally, feed you kind of want to set up with a lot of it wants to do one great big blowout turn. And I think Zinker, who has been long on the warpath to fix food as much as it can be fixed, has been pretty responsive to a lot of these criticisms and has been playing around specifically in this case with food that can serve sort of this versatile utility without necessarily needing to be on that big blowout turn. So notably, this is not a buff food. So you're not just trying to stack buffs on something. You can use this as sort of a multi-exhaust to get through a couple units at once. But this one wasn't doing particularly good on the subreddit, and I was wondering if you guys had any sort of insight as to why. I'll let you start, Spike.
So when I first saw this card, I actually didn't really think too much about it. But the more I think about it, I actually don't hate this card design that much. I actually can see this being one of those types of food that you don't have to go full blowout right there. It's just a versatile. Pay 1 mana, you pay a unit afterwards. I could see it I could see it being utilized with something like robots or other some kind of like cheap
Yeah.
swarmy mind decks right there to just lock down the board for. The thing is, it's a turn, and more often or not, it's like you either want to like exhaust 1 or 2 units, or you want to exhaust the whole board. And at that point, it's a little bit feast or famine, no pun intended. But I think this is fine. It's not. I think it's fine. Is pretty much my. It seems a little weak, but I think it's fine.
I think this is one of those cards where it's kind of in a hard to evaluate spot where like I would want to see what this plays like in a couple of games. And because you can't see that when just reading the text, I think that probably turns some people off.
I think if there was any change that I would make to this suggestion of this card is staple on to like maybe make it cantrip initially. So
Draw a
like
card.
draw a
Yeah.
card
I think that would be just perf.
or if some people feel like that's too strong, maybe just make it something like Scour 2,
Yeah.
which would also help out,
Yeah.
Mind Dragons, I guess.
What do you think about this, Grief?
I am very in the camp of this is a very powerful card and probably completely underestimated. We're talking about a utility card that will only be used to actually blow out the opponent in a very aggressive setup where you either play aggro deck or mid-range deck where you chain like 2 to 3 cards if you have a lower curve, or just 2 cards in a mid-range top end setup. Because exhausting cards in this case would be exhausting the 1 to 3 targets that either wreck you in an aggressive manner, or these cards are now completely irrelevant to my next aggressive combat push.
Yeah.
That's something that should be kept in mind, because even at 1, this is basically just giving, oh yeah, the next unit can also work as a stun, also has an inbuilt stun effect.
Yeah. So you would
At
actually
2,
be
it's
more something like bump the cost?
no, it's probably at a
I think at 2 it's
okayish
unplayable.
point. It's actually at a point where it's playable, where it can be too good in some games and completely useless in others.
Yeah.
But in the middle of the road, it will always perform fine.
Yeah.
If you put rebound or cantrip or something on it, it will just push the card over the edge.
Fair enough.
Okay. I can definitely see what you're saying with that.
I will give kudos to Zinker for making a card that doesn't like immediately fit into the like I play ring the bell, ring the bell, ring the bell, ring the
Yeah.
bell, and just spam my entire game. So I mean,
Yeah,
it
well,
could,
like I said, he's on the warpath to make food work, and he has been for a long time, and he's really listening to some of these criticisms, I feel. Stinky Buford is a 4-drop neutral 7/7 pig from nowhere in particular, with overrun, agile, and summon bounce your 2 oldest units. I really, really like this design. First of all, because believe it or not, this plays into an existing theme that the only other pig has of having this sort of like over curved nature. But this one goes with sort of the like drawback approach of bouncing your 2 oldest units is sort of this thing to compensate. And so I like how you can definitely play around this. I definitely get the flavor. I think it's very, very cute for a very, very offbeat design, which is totally on brand for Sporian. That's what he does in my book. Grief, what do you think of this?
Isn't this just a funny 4-cost 7/7 that people usually joke about because Sidestone did it?
I mean, it's a little bit more of an interesting drawback than that.
Yeah, it's not interesting. The thing is this a mandatory bounce before the card is played or after the card is played?
I believe it will bounce itself if
it can bounce itself, which
yeah.
means you could also maybe use this for like a combo setup if you had some cost reduction.
Like the thing about in Hearthstone, the meme about it was that like it was you just paid mana next turn afterwards, and otherwise it was just it was a 4-mana 7/7, whereas this one has a downside that you can actually turn into an upside if you can set it up correctly.
Yeah.
which is I think more interesting than just a 4-mana 7/7. And I
Okay,
actually think this might be.
To give context, I don't have a fucking idea what a 4-mana 7/7 in Hearthstone was. I just hear the term or the beam thrown around every now and then, so I basically don't know what the card in question actually was.
Yeah.
TLDR, it was a 4-mana 7/7 with Overload 2, so you paid 2 mana next turn. That's all. And it was really efficient.
Oh, so you pay it in installments kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
Oh. So you don't see any fun, interesting opportunities with this card? I do.
I mean, it's basically cute in terms of, okay, I can bounce tokens, I can use it maybe as a combo tool, but in the combos tool sense of way, you really need to work for it. And the question is, why don't I actually use a normal bounce effect in that case instead of a 4-mana?
Yeah. What do you think about it, Spike?
I mean, I think that this might sound weird, but I would like this if this was scaled down a little bit.
Yeah.
Like if it was like maybe a 3-mana 6/6, or like two, and this might be a little bit too far, but like a 2-mana 5/5. That might be a little bit too good because.
But see, I think the people that are like running this, at least for the combo end of that, because that's what I can really speak to, they're running cost reduction anyway.
They're not running it for the combo. They're running it for the stats.
Exactly.
Okay.
This is not a combo card. In very, very rare cases where you can actually utilize it for a combo to set up, you have better tools for it. Because they come with innate benefits. This just bounces 2 cards.
But yeah, if it was smaller though, I could definitely see it because at 4 mana, destroying your board to get an Overrun Agile that can just get backed up, or nightmare scenario, the opponent has actually no, isn't Invoking Chant friendly?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay, never mind then. But like, oh, that would have been funny. You played Invoking Chant targeting Stinky Buford. That sounds that sounds horrible.
The best horrible case I can actually make for this is Legacy. Martial Promotion.
Oh, yeah, that's actually very
See,
yucky.
I knew you'd think of something with him, Grief.
Yeah, of course, because it's a 7/7 beater and the end of the day would overrun it agile.
Yeah.
I'm playing it for the body.
And
I know he's an unassuming stinky pig, but
that was actually kind of the thing within Hearthstone too, is that you evolve something from a 3 cost into a 4-mana 7/7. So it's same. I you know what, Grief, I forgot completely about Martial Promotion, and this makes me like the card a teeny bit less.
let's
welcome.
go on. Fun design, I liked it. The Curious Cow. I'm just doing farm animals today, guys. Curious Cow is a 3-drop neutral 2/3 Spike. Spike, are you ready for this?
I'm mad.
It's a 2-drop 2/3 cow from nowhere in particular, with entrance, moo-ve unit with 2 or less base cost from hand into play. He took his headphones off. It was going down. So Magneter was playing around with this idea about doing this cows and cheese thing. I said it might help him to take a little step back from Xandar. He agreed with me, and he was doing these designs. I think these are really cute and interesting. They really fit his pixel art style real well. The art on this and blue cheese are just gorgeous. So the idea with these is maybe to build up to some sort of chain combo. But it also just serves as, I guess, a solid little patch of value. What are we thinking about this? Spike, I'll let you start.
I actually really like this design, except for the pun. The pun makes me really mad. But other than that, like, I actually really like the idea of just like playing this, flickering a lot, getting a lot of value, or heavens forbid you and I might be a little bit rusty for this. I'm not too expert on combos like this, but you could like play Curious Cow, and then you could probably like flicker in some kind of bounce effect. I'm sure there's some neon with like that costs 2 or less with a bounce effect, like the 0 cost one.
Yeah.
just do a whole bunch of flickering, bouncing shenanigans, and I think it actually plays in with a lot of nice, a lot of cards that we have in standard right now. Unironically, aside from the pun, which I hate the pun so much, this is actually a really well designed card.
Yeah, I hate to say this, but the reason I got added as a collab was I made that joke and he actually stuck
You
on the card.
actually degraded the card a little bit.
I
can't-
got collab status for that.
The funniest or saddest thing about it, it's actually one of the only things that's usually called out about a card being a negative.
Yeah.
Which is funny because I also gave my sign of approval on it because let's be honest, there are way fucking worse puns in our game.
Yeah.
And moo-ve is definitely not the worst.
I love it in your voice. It's so much better in your voice. I should have you read the whole card. Okay. So yeah. So you actually like it, Grief.
It's a very cute combo tool that will enable very cute shenanigans for both aggro decks and Aesthetica as a realm. This is a very good
Concerta.
addition to them. And Concerta as well.
Yeah,
So,
so
good
it's
design.
not sitting too pretty. I hope it does better soon.
Probably because of the
Probably
pun.
because of the moo-ve.
I really hope people aren't that petty, but whatever.
Some
They
people
are.
are that petty.
They are.
Laukiel, the Cage, is a 10-drop neutral 5/5 angel horror object from HPL. With fast, ambush, start of game, whenever non-Laukiel unit enters your graveyard, banish it. And end tomb, fill your board with units that banish this game. Newest to oldest. So I know Sporium has been trying so hard to get some iteration of this Laukiel in. I think this is probably the best one I've seen so far. So he's moving in the right direction, in my opinion. What does this do? This lets you synergize with a lot of like discard stuff for some immediate shenanigans. You could also just use this with the natural cycle of death, and it'll play perfectly into your plans probably. Of course, this is on the bigger end of things, so you do got to find a way to get it out. And then you actually have to find a way to kill it. But it's a 5/5, so that's doable. What do we think about this? Spike, I'll let you start.
So I've worked with I've given Sporium plenty of like critique on this card before through his many iterations of it, and a lot of the times I've just told him to cut down the fat of the card, and I think this is probably like one of the most slimmest designs that he's posted so far. And this is out of all the iterations, this is my personal favorite, in the sense that the concept behind it is interesting, of being a reanimator unit that you do not run in normal reanimator decks, along other things. You wouldn't run this in a deck with Raga's Resurgence. You wouldn't run this in a deck with like Haunted Yarn, Lesser Ray Dead, because you can't. That's the start of game, and that's actually, if you think about it, a negative for the most part. But where I find it a little bit annoying to deal with is the fast part saves it a little bit. So like in something like Legacy, you can immediately like cast Bloodletter and it instantly pops. But we don't really have that insta pop card at a cheap rate, to my knowledge.
Yeah.
In standard right now. I suppose we recently did get that 2 mana destroy an ally, draw 2 cards.
But that's 12 mana at that point.
That's 12 mana. And it's also in strength, so Raga's
I'm not gonna begrudge him fast, and here's why. It does need ambush.
No, it needs fast. Don't get me wrong. It needs
Oh.
fast. It needs fast because you need to be able to.
Yeah.
It's a lot worse if you can't pop it the moment you play it, because your opponent silences it, and that entire thing you're building your entire game plan for is just silence. So that's the part. I think actually this might be a bit better if it had a stat line of something like maybe like a 7/4 or even like something with a little bit less HP but more attack.
Yeah. Or even maybe player. Yeah, I can definitely see that. That's interesting. Or maybe play around with the threat isn't that your opponent's going to block into this, but the threat is it's going to hit you really hard if you don't pop it. Maybe add agile there. I don't know. It's just spitballing random ideas. Probably fine as is. I really like it. Yeah, I think this is his best iteration so far. Grief, what do you think?
The saddest part about Laukiel is it really hates to be milled or discarded.
No,
Because funny enough, this itself would probably be way better, and you didn't really need always to jump through hoops to actually activate the Entomb if it would be on entering the graveyard trigger.
Oh, but then you could just mill like crazy and then automatically pop it.
Yes and no.
Just make it so just attach the mana cost to the Entomb.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's pretty good. Actually, I like that a lot more. If it just whenever it just enters the graveyard, that way you don't need the fast on that anymore.
It's fine currently, but that would be probably an improvement on a mechanical level to make it just a tad bit more playable.
Because the thing that's holding it back is that you cannot pop it right away in standard.
Yeah.
Does is forbidden fruit in standard, and does it destroy or just give it a -/- effect?
It kills it out. It bonuses it and kills it. So yeah, for the forbidden delicacy could do it.
Yeah, forbidden delicacy does.
And I think it's in standard as well. But again, that's 12 mana. So we just
at that point
found a statue, guys.
I mean, 12 mana to fill your entire board from like presumably the bigger units that died, since it's newest to oldest, is not that bad for 12 mana. Not gonna lie.
Founder statue, you could do it for 10.
If you could, I could see it, maybe.
Or I mean, if you want to do something quirky, Sam.
You could run it and do it in vampires.
Yeah.
And, play it with Sangwell Diplomat. I don't know, but
I mean, just play it in a sacrifice engine, please.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah, we do have sack and you're right. Spell wise, we don't have a lot of sack engines, but we do have sack engines. They're just on units. So
Yeah.
I think this version's fine. I disagree with you guys personally, but that's your opinion. I would run it with statue because statue's my card, and it would go in my all cornmeal art deck. No, once I make one of those. The World of Chaos is a 1-drop neutral 0/2 place from nowhere in particular. With when a player plays a card, replace it with a random card of the same type and cost. So yeah, this is the start of Grief's picks. But boy, would I have picked this one had he not done it already.
That's why I picked it first.
Well, yeah, I mean, you could have just given yourself a free extra pick by putting it on my pick list. I love this design. The flavor text is incredibly cute, and the art goes with it. Even though it is one of those abstracts from APRA, the play patterns that this thing creates, I understand that a lot of people are probably concerned, and that is probably why they have voted the way that they have voted. I also think that you're wrong and should go turn around and upvote this. But again, that's a personal opinion. Grief, do you think the people on the subreddit are being a little alarmist?
No, because they're absolutely right. The problem is I also uploaded the card, but not because I actually want to update it. Since the card and mechanics and so on and so forth are very fine, but not at fucking one cost. 7. That's the correct cost of that card.
So you think, yeah, the fact that this gets out too early is maybe a problem. I thought it was too late.
No. This locks you out of actually playing your entire deck.
Yeah.
Regardless of when you drop it, if it's dropping before turn 7, this is too good.
Yeah. Okay.
Because you can, even in an aggro situation, you cannot really put it at a mid-range cost because, oh yeah, I put my aggro board, now I drop this card, and now let's see if the control player or my opponent will ever get a random card that actually can remove the World of Chaos or hand on my board. Well, I'll just hit his face in.
Yeah.
Similar issue to World of Chaos. Oh, turn 1 World of Chaos. You can now basically don't follow any kind of plan anymore. And I don't care. I just want to see the world burn. World of Chaos at 1 is a freaking coin flip.
Yeah.
World of Chaos at 7 is an interesting build around that can be answered, but you still have to gamble into it. But that's the thing. We should still leave it as a 1-0 because at that point, even if you low roll in terms of removal or board wipes, you can still at least get somehow rid of it. And when you're getting a duelist unit, they can also get rid of it.
So wait, you're saying the stat lines would be fine at 7
Exactly,
because of how
this
hard it
card,
is to remove. Okay.
because of how hard of breakable board it can actually create.
Yeah. Okay, I can see a lot of the arguments for it. I personally think 5 would be a better number.
As I
Because
said, then you just present a mid-range or aggro board and slap this down on your opponent, cannot really remove that card or board anymore.
well, but supposing they're running stuff at like 4 and 5, some of those
Which
are going to
which is completely irrelevant because you're getting a random card out of it just at the same cost.
Yeah. It's I think this is even more so than Dream Pop, one of those cards where it's like you would have to see it in action and not at 1. I thought I didn't realize it was a 1. You'd have to see it in action to really kind of know how to interact with it. And yeah, I definitely agree it needs to be a lot higher. The specifics are the only thing I think I'm not sure about. What do you think, Spike?
So, the only change I would make to this is 7. I personally also am in a camp of this is fine if it was just 7 mana. And let me lay out you some jank of just let's say you have Wrap Tear out and you've gotten like a bunch of like prototypes in your hand and you all reduce the cost, right? So now you can play, World of Chaos and then play out your entire hand of prototypes and get a bunch of really horrible 0-cost spells cards. You gotta admit that's pretty great. At 1, this is like, hey, both you and your opponent are playing with Henry on turn 1. Have fun.
Yeah.
But worse. But at 7, this is very fun and very janky, and I can imagine a lot of shenanigans they can do, and it makes it a good control tool at 7, which I don't think is actually that BS because it would be a 0-2.
Exactly.
So yeah, now that I'm taking a better look at it and thinking it through, I definitely agree with your guys' assessment. Could definitely use some numbers tweaking. The Vrob Trashman is a 1-drop strength 2/1 robot goblin from Paradis with rebound and summon. Banish the top 4 cards of both graveyards. And I'm probably thinking about this card the wrong way. This immediately strikes me as a very, very weird control tool for decks that tend to know what the top of it is, or sort of like a corner case, like a mill-in strength. But there's probably a deeper purpose to this I'm not seeing. So whose pick was it? Grief, this is your pick. Yeah. You want to go on this one?
It's just a simple graveyard hoser.
Oh, graveyard. I thought it was deck for some reason because I'm so used to Paradis caring about the top of the deck versus the top of the graveyard.
This is just a simple and really cute and fine designed robot goblin. It has rebound, so yeah, it's a 1/2, so you can actually play it thanks to the rebound and held them as a 1-drop, and even if it doesn't banish the deck, you still have a 2/1 attacker. Did I say 1/2? Yeah. Benefits from robot buffs, or if it's heralded. And you can occasionally host graveyard-centric decks where if you drop it and it gets killed, or even you can sacrifice it, you just get it back, and oh yeah, that's now 8 cards that have banished from both graveyards, and I don't really care because I don't play out of the graveyard, but maybe you. Yeah, you and your undeads from last season.
Yeah. I like this now that I'm actually reading the card properly. This is a good combination of like good and key. I do like the robot goblin thing. And it's just good to have at least some sort of like one of the big problems with interactivity and collective is we just don't build these tools that are like these like graveyard hosers or hand interaction. And so this is definitely a step in the right direction. Spike, what do you think of this?
There's good stats for the cost, good keyword, good effects. I love it. Like honestly, this was probably one of my favorite Hunweight designs. Like when I first started playing collective, um, this might sound laughable to some people, but like I love like a lot of the rock stuff from like a conceptual standpoint. In practice, it's a little finicky, but like in concept, I love it, and I think that this just harkens back to that time for me in a good way, and I appreciate it. So, and also I as realm admin for Lux, I love cheap cost rebound unit.
Yeah.
Feels good, man.
Okay, the Stargazing Whelp is a 1-drop mine 1/2 dragon from Talira with leap fast, summon, scour 2, and you know what? I'm just gonna say it. Chroma strength.
No, you can't say that.
No, this is strength if you are. I'm strength if you are, bro. I wanted to actually say that. I'm strength if you.
I'm straight. Oh, we're
No,
Legend of
no.
Runeterra now.
Oh,
No,
God.
no. Okay, so let's talk about this. So the other 1-drop mine 1/2 in Dune Walkers is agile fast, right?
Yep,
And this is, or is it agile leap?
it's Agile Leap.
Agile leap, and this is leap fast. So we just gotta think about stuff like that, right? What's the keyword mix? Kind of what purposes it's trying to do.
If it helps Leap faster, isn't that relevant?
Yeah.
Well,
It's
yeah,
a little relevant, but
it's
not that
something. It's something. Nobody's really playing this for the keywords. Definitely, I
Yeah.
agree. I do like the whole stargazing, and it's a dragon that doesn't have wings, and it has leap, and that's cute. Scour 2 on a mine dragon. This has always kind of been outside of my expertise, so I'll let someone else take over. Spike, you want to talk about this card?
Yeah, sure. I like this is on the trend of just really good 1-drops that we need. It's a good good tool card. Um, Dragons currently right now, we are slowly getting our way to filling up the curve now. With last week we got Plasma Sentinels in, and which is the 2-drop dragon that we got, and there was another 1-drop dragon on the subreddit. I think it was just also Agile Leap or something like that. It was a 1/2 in strength, but I think this is more, this is useful in Mind Dragons if that ever develops, which I'm rooting for it. Yeah, but in Strength Dragons, this is a good effect. It helps sculpt the top of your deck. You know, it's a 1-drop that cares about your synergies. If this gets in the game, I think it will just strengthen the consistency of a lot of Dragon decks. Hope it gets in.
Yeah. Grace, what do you think of this?
By the way, I assure you, Mind Dragons is basically a thing. Not a good thing, but it exists in Legacy. And it helps both. And it helps actually the deck because, spoilers, Mind Dragons are a Fish Dragon hybrid deck.
Ooh.
I can see it.
Because of River Prince and his second version. Forgot the name. Therefore, yes, Scour 2 for both draw shenanigans of fish and sculpting top of the deck for dragons is basically what they want. Overall, just a solid unit and a pretty cute callback for the fast when it comes to Stargazer, or what was it? Shooting Star Dragon?
Yeah.
Stardust is from another game. Yeah, I think it's a pretty solid design. It will help out dragons in the future in both standard and in legacy.
Okay. Volcanic Stomper is a 15 cost neutral 9/9 giant elemental dinosaur from Not Unguya. With this cost 1 less for each HP point you have below 25.
I could also see this in Terrador.
Yeah, or somewhere.
But I don't really care too much if a realm is on it or not.
I know. It's just really it's just really interesting to see a dinosaur that's not from Unguya, man.
I think it should be from Anguilla.
I definitely think there was a lot of open offers on the table. But anyways, let's talk about the card on its own merits. So this is from the studio that brought you the other cost reduction dino, right? Wujek did that one.
Sea Spectre long neck.
Yeah, so he's just this is the
It's the Molten Giant from Hearthstone.
yeah, it's trying to do the same thing again but different. If you are on Death's Door, you get a free dude. Otherwise, you can get a pretty cheap cost 9/9. Really helps you out in like sort of the toward the late game or 3. Doesn't have any innate overrun or anything, which I think is about right. You're gonna need something to spice this boy up if you're gonna ram him through and win. Spike, what do you think of this?
It's Molten Giant from Hearthstone. A little bit more different in our game because like life total. Actually, I forget that life total is here 25. So this is it's Molten Giant from Hearthstone. That's pretty much that card was pretty okay. It's all play in a lot of like self-harm style decks where the whole point of it was that being like a low life total, and also in Magic the Gathering there's also Death Shadow where you can go and drop a really efficiently statted unit by suiciding yourself closer and closer to a lower life total. So it's fine. It's big unit with a nice cost reduction.
Yeah, so Grief, what are you thinking with this guy?
Simple comment will probably find a place if you ever get a suicide deck back again in standard. I know it's on a pretty weak end when it comes to legacy. So yeah, it's not the worst, but 15 damage is quite a house number. So you
don't have to
better
get
have
it
a
down to 15.
yeah. I know, but
I'm
think of
totally
Death
fine
Shadow.
at 15 life, paying 5 for a 9.
Well,
I mean,
looking at like Death Shadow is not the way you're looking at, because
I know.
this type of card's usually played for value, and you would be happy to pay this for 4 mana or 3 mana.
That's true.
You're not looking to get like the full maximum Death Shadow. I'm playing this 1 mana 10/10. I cast Teamer Battle Rage. You lose the game.
Maybe it actually has a home with Pride more again, because Void got fixed. Therefore, you could actually play it for 0 while you're on minus 30 life anyway. So yeah.
Tusk Newt decks too. That'd be funny.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Ooh, yeah.
You can use this cost reduction to supplement cost reduction.
It's you could get a pretty cheap unit from
to
that.
be honest, in that case, I could also see this being played in Ormore decks with in Legacy with a combo between Wrath and Blood Priest and Pride, where you basically just churn out your entire board depending on the tokens you got, and if you then you nuke basically the face of your opponent. If you cannot, then you still have a board of very big beaters.
That
This
feels
just
fair
fits.
to me.
This just
Unironically.
fits. This just fits the role if you cannot really go for the or combo pattern that you just drop a highly reduced 9/9 body on the board together with a Pride, which is funny because the first one reduces.
Oh man, if you play Pride of this is free. Oh, that's disgusting. Oh no, that's actually disgusting.
Let's move on. The Blood Reflection is a 2-drop strength action from the Icorian Sect. Just throwing that out there. Life Bond and deal 1 damage to a unit. Create a 1/1 copy of it with Life Bond. So this is potentially really, really cool. This gives you obviously the advantages of like Underlabs and strength now. I guess we're doing that. Sure, let's just go ahead with it. And what do I get out of this? I get 1 damage, 1 life, a 1/1 is a copy of whatever I want, potential to abuse some really cool entrance shenanigans, up to and including perhaps a Curious Cow.
Oh man, Curious Cow with that. That's funny.
No, I'm stealing the cater of my opponent.
Oh yeah,
targetable. Kadar is
sure. 2-drop Kadar, folks.
Fuck, Kadar is untargetable.
Yeah, you can't get Kadar.
Oh.
Big savage.
We need surveillance shots.
No. You can use this in the Bella's Greenman deck.
What?
You can use this in a Bella's Greenman deck because you get your already big Greenman, and then you ping it once, and your Greenmans are already buffed. It's not gonna die. It makes a 1/1 copy. The effect is entrance, so you're just making another copy of Greenman, and it has Life Bond. which is very important
With
here.
getting green mana keyword is very important.
You may call me a heretic for that, but that's why I picked this card. I love this card for that reason. Also, it's cute value.
You're not a heretic. You're definitely a blood priest / cultist, or else this wouldn't be from.
So I don't know if I'm totally vibing with this. I feel like that word should be ally.
No. Because it can copy bullshit from your opponent. That's so funny. It's a 1/1 copy.
Yeah, but sometimes that doesn't matter.
There was a card there's a card like this in Hearthstone, with it was 3 mana, but instead of dealing damage, it actually buffed it. So it was you wouldn't really want to use it on an enemy unit most of the time because you were buffing it, but sometimes you did want that 1/1, and that's the important part. And the point is that this goes into, like I've said before, the green man deck. It goes into rage decks. You would love to ping your dude with life bond and then make a 1/1 copy of it, because then that also triggers rage right there. This is excellent in rage decks. This is another way of proccing your triggers in a way that you don't feel like, oh, I'm paying 5 mana to ping my dudes once. Like this is pretty good. This is a good value card, and I love it.
Yeah, I would run the heck out of this in anything, whether it's at ally or not. I'm glad to see that people are taking to it, because I think, personally, my experience playing being a mostly single player, I love this kind of card. I have a feeling someone's going to get angry and try and nerf this if it gets in. But I more power to them. In the meantime, I wanted to get in as is. I'm only wary about it because I'm kind of conditioned being around the other people to be wary about such things. Somebody wanted to challenge me today. Medona Tarrae is a 3-drop strength exclusive 2/4 demon president from Tutela with ward. At the end of turn, Medona gains mana equal to twice yours. Medona has 0 mana at the moment. Active, select a task you haven't selected this turn, pay to play it, and ready this. Medona's mana is spent for this if possible. I do not know how to say these in either language, so I'm just going to call this first mode calm. Calm disturbances. It means calm disturbances.
No. Calmar disturbios, gastar los impuestos, demandar deudas, and invertir en bolsa.
Okay.
Welcome for the free Spanish and German lessons this episode.
An allied unit gains life on and duels an enemy unit. Calm disturbances. Say the second one.
Gastar los impuestos.
Okay. Transfer half of Medona's mana into your mana, and Medona loses the rest of her mana.
Demandar deudas.
Enemy cards cost 1 more this turn.
And invertir en bolsa.
Draw a unit in an action. So, I think this mode is super interesting. I would not only love to see this in the game, I would like to see, going forward, other legendaries that are just templated off of this. I mean, this feels very similar. I mean, I guess most of it appeals to me as like an MTG player. I'm looking at a Planeswalker card of sorts. And I think that's really interesting and really compelling. Mode 1 manages to get you some life, get some stuff going there. Mode 2 is like most of what we're talking about with the card, right? It gains mana at the end of your turn equal to what you had left, and then you can refund that mana at a slight penalty. Enemy cards cost 1 more this turn, gives you a solid little control option. And draw a unit and an action just gives you consistency. 2. Yeah, it's draw 2, but a little bit better. I think, honestly, kind of the bit with her active where you have to spend Medona's mana first is almost a little sad. Because specifically what Mode 2 is doing, it makes it really hard to set up to it. And to a lesser extent, what Mode 3 is doing. But I think it about works out. It's kind of the thing where it's hard to evaluate unless you see it in play. But like I said, I'm 100% behind this card. Grief, what do you think of this design?
This is stock but functional, my dude.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
It could have been a
Cracked the
stock
code.
design. There's no reason it couldn't be.
Like we basically workshop that card in voice chat because you actually have to make this card spend its own mana, or else it would be utterly broken.
Mm.
On the other hand, you had to actually make every effect only last once per turn, because that wasn't actually only be castable once per turn, because that was actually not on the initial design, which meant that you had to actually re-evaluate the cost of the +2 cost, which or +3 cost, which was the initial taxation effect.
Yeah.
So we basically tuned that card down to fit the current fit the current playstyle. Still a little bit iffy on the second effect, because I think we said you should probably use it. It should probably cost 0, because then you actually get refunded what you paid into it. And I think, what was it? Was it rounded up or rounded down?
I believe it was probably knowing Bonk, it was probably rounded down.
Yeah, so
Okay.
you get the small half, and then Medona would lose the big half.
So in that case, yeah, it's actually a very good card and a fine card in a nutshell. But yeah, that's my only gripe with the transfer effect. The rest, perfectly fine for what she actually does. And she's a very good control tool, because she has the first effect that will help you actually out ramp into the later game, or else you would probably die utterly die against aggro. Third effect is an anti-action or anti-control tool. And the fourth just helps you just not run out of gas in a general sense.
Yeah. Spike, what do you think?
I mean, I love this card to death. I've seen like many different iterations of this card, but this is probably my favorite one. Like you said, it's a Planeswalker, and at first when I read it, like I was scared because put it bluntly, mucho texto. But after you read the card, it's just like a lot of it's just
Boilerplate.
it's framework. It's framework is what it is. And you look at all the effects. The effects are pretty simple. This is like life bond, fight something, get mana. Your opponent's stuff costs more. Draw 2 cards. Well,
Yeah.
draw 2 cards. That's really nice, really simple. All these effects can be relevant to different parts of the effect. I like multi designs. This is a multi design on steroids, and I absolutely love it. Remember to go vote for La Presidenta. I love her to death. She's great. Wonderful design. I really hope it gets in. Democracy's important.
Okay. The Riftweaver Sigil is a 1-drop neutral portal from Black Rift with fast and scout a card with cost equal to your available mana. Clarifications on this, because I don't know how this works, but I was told how this works by Acoustic. This actually takes off affinity penalty into account.
Yes.
So the card that you get will always be very specifically a card that is worth half your mana, or worth your available mana.
Which is
sort of an absolute scout, if you will. I think it's really cool. Because obviously, whatever, Stranger's Realm. I'll let Spike talk first, and then I'll talk based around what Spike says.
So the fact that this takes into off affinity penalty is actually really important, because if it didn't, this would mean that every deck could play Ush. Basically, you wait to 13 mana, you play it, you would have gotten, you have 12 mana remaining, you get Ush offered, and you play Ush. And every deck having, extra copies of Ush at turn 13 is kind of scary. But other than that, I mean, you have to accept that you're holding a dead card in your hand for to the remaining amount of time, so maybe not as scary. Otherwise, really flexible card. Really like the design on this. I mean, I don't really have much qualms with it. I think that we should have this useful tools like this, and this is a ongoing theme of this week, I suppose, that we're just getting a lot of just really nice toolboxy 1-drops.
Yeah,
which is I think is necessary for the game, because we don't really have that many 1-drops that are multi-purpose, which is important for a game.
And also, the fast is a very elegant thing here of like, a lot of portals have to work hard. Scout effects need to work hard to catch up because they don't work with the implicit synergies in a very high synergy game. So they have to do something sparkly in order to really make them work. And fast is a great way to catch up. And I think that really just kind of pushes this design over the top in a couple different ways. Grief, what do you think of this?
Clean scout card, and I actually like it. Good job. And I don't really say that often when it comes to scouting, because I don't really like the mechanic. It's like a wishboard gone wrong. But in this case, you could actually manipulate it in a sense where you can usually predict that the outcomes, especially if you have a pretty good knowledge on the card pool in general or the options that can be offered to you.
Yeah.
The higher mana you get, the more easier it is to sculpt. But the point is also that you also have to spend the mana if you want to get the perfect card. So there's also that part of playing around with the mana cost.
The Deepborne Call is a 4-drop spirit action from Walnut with target player mills 4 units. Play a unit from your graveyard that costs 4 or less. Grief, I'm gonna let you take over on the very start of this one.
Okay. Cannot really say something that I didn't really already said about the card. It's a very solid design and I like it. Funny thing, Deepborne is another race of Walnut that we're currently exploring, which is basically fish people. From a humanoid on to anything that basically lives under the sea is a Deepborne. Just quick lore lesson. I already said to Corn, I like this card mechanically, and I also like recursion / reanimate effects. But for once, folks, could you please design a card for Walnut that doesn't imply that it's milling?
Yeah, you got painted into a box somewhere down the line. It's good to keep your options open. But yeah, I love Reanimator, so I'm probably never going to complain about a Reanimator card unless it's unplayable or just so ridiculously busted I can see it. This can do some fun stuff. First of all, it can be used as a versatile tutor effect. It can be used to prop up mill, and it can be used just as a 4-cost get my dude back, which I love getting my dude back. This plays to like the strengths of Corn as a designer and a couple of the designers we have where it's versatility at the foremost. Exactly. Like Collective is very synergy heavy and very versatility heavy, and this just makes that part sparkle. Which it sparkles in the middle of a swamp with an anglerfish screaming, "Why God?" I like it. Spike, what do you think?
I think the fact that this is specifically mill 4 units and not just 4 cards is like super huge on this card. And part of the reason I picked it is specifically on that front alone because we don't actually have. I don't think we have a specific card in the game right now that mills only a specific type of card. It's always generic. So
Dreamer.
Yep. Oh, Dreamer does. My bad. well, Walnut. So got that there. So
Walnut,
hey, you can't
Walnut,
complain.
The
You
mill
can't
run.
complain. Can't complain. But you can use this, on yourself to get yourself your fuel in your graveyard, and obviously, just get free value for that. 4 mana to tutor and play something for your graveyard for heck yes. Or the spicy thing, you playing up a control deck that doesn't run that many units right there, and you want to get in the graveyard like Ush, for example, and you playing on them, and you milled have it in the most extreme cases all of their Ushes, and then maybe the one Essence Shifter that they ran for whatever reason, the Essence Shifter included with that, and then on top of that, once again, play something from your graveyard. It's just good. It's a win-win. It feels so good.
And I do like, and I think, and correct me if you guys think I'm totally off base with the implications here, but it should be the case that the assumption with blocking is that this mills your top 4 units specifically.
It should.
So interactions with aggressively Herald, Scour, Dragons, defensively or using it on myself. I can use this to pull actions to the top of my deck and actually use this to as sort of a tutor in both directions. This design is gorgeous. I'm so glad that this, like, I kind of may have like skimmed through this design when I really needed to pay close attention.
By the way,
this is beautiful.
welcome to Combo Sunday with Grief.
Free Sunday special.
This kind of cards is pretty interesting. We didn't want to actually create something like that before we actually rotate our cards into Legacy. So put into your deck this 3 copies of it, 4 copies of Dreamer. Sorry, 3 copies of Dreamer, and 3 copies of Orchestra.
Oh no, Grief.
So regardless of how you actually hit units with this thing, you will always hit an Orchestra, which on mill or entrance, which is imported for the revival part, will completely wreck the opponent's hand. Because even if you hit 3 Dreamers, you will still hit the Orchestras. Technically, you could put other mill synergy cards like Glass or Swine Prince into that pile as well, but you really want to hit these any combination of these 2 units. So you will wreck the hand of your opponent, put one of the Orchestras into the board, will wreck another card, will rip another card out of the opponent's hand, then shuffle back Orchestras to their own effect.
Beautiful, glorious.
I don't want to go to the Grief Sunday special anymore. I'm scared.
Welcome to Legacy.
Anyway, vote up this card. This card's great.
Exactly.
Yeah, this is definitely one of the coolest designs I've seen in a while. So this was really fun. I enjoyed this week a lot. Sorry to see Empty gone, but we should see him back next week. Grief, great having you on the show as always. I love the new camera angle, man.
Yeah, I'm also kind of digging it.
Yeah, you know. And nice to see you as well, Spike. Always so great to have you on the show. You're a wonderful guest.
Thank you.
And so, like, comment, and subscribe. Remind me why I keep doing this show, and keep on playing collective. Keep on voting on cards. Bye.
Toodles.
See ya.